Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. In this video I'm going to be reviewing an album by Spooky Nut. This is their debut album called Nosebleed Season. So these guys are based in Virginia, and I've been following them for technically 4 years now. They originally were under the name Ogives, I think they were pronounced, and released a single and an EP, and eventually obviously became under the pseudonym Spooky Nut and released a compilation called Mediocrity, which is sort of a loosey collection of songs that they released over a period of a couple of years. And whilst it was, I suppose, in a way mediocre, because it was definitely a bit scatterbrained in terms of not only stylistic sounds but also in song qualities, especially audio qualities, I have been very much anticipated actual release by the group, like an official release, and it's taken a while, but here we are. This is their official debut album. These guys as well, I feel, is very influenced by sort of early punk music, specifically pop punk, kind of indie rock, lo-fi indie. I especially think that if you are a fan of early Green Day, maybe Guided by Voices, then you would really like a lot of what these guys have been doing, even with the past releases as well. But I can't say enough that with this debut album, I am more than impressed. Whilst I did enjoy Mediocrity and thought that I had quite a few highlights, there was plenty of blemishes and things that overall the group needed to basically improve on. Not that they needed to hurry up or anything, because all three of the members are very young, but it's just complete day and night of how much these guys have improved since I last heard them. Clearly over the years these guys have just really improved on their experience and overall talent with the instruments that they've been using. We can see that clearly throughout the whole record, although I didn't think that there were bad players on the Mediocrity album or compilation. Here they just seem like they're very, very confident now with what they're doing. So the album kicks off with the song Attention Please, which is like this multifaceted folk, punk, noise rock powerhouse. And although it's very short in length, it is totally filled to the brim with all of these musical ideas. And although I've mentioned previously that the group have had a bit of a scatterbrained side to them, I think that this song just flows so well that this could have been a 5 or 6 minute track, but has been abbreviated but made really catchy as well. It's got a chorus clearly, but at the same time it's got all of these multi-layered sounds to it and all of these different passages in terms of vocals and guitar layer, and that it kind of reminds me of a rap collective in a way. It's weird to describe it, but if you had, for example, a rap song and had like 5 features on it, it's kind of like that, the way that these guys in the short amount of time have been able to make all of these different vocal layerings and melodies into a sort of, well, rock themed track. This is a really good kickoff to this album, but also I think another great track comes straight after this one too, the Wildlife song. What I love about this track is that it screams early Animal Collective, and I love it for that. It's got all of these brilliant vocal harmonies, it's got these hand claps, these shouty backing vocals as well. I love the guitars in it as well, and it kind of builds up more and more into this sort of folk crescendo in a way. And I think these guys just totally kick it out of the park in terms of how they've been able to just really encapsulate how they've been developing themselves as songwriters. As with what's been seen in the past discography by these guys, they've also dabbled a bit of emo music into this as well. I particularly see it in the lyrics, which sort of relates to anxieties with love, with oneself, and it even references an emo rap track, a little Uzi Vert track, The Way Life Goes, which I thought was a really nice touch too. The third track, Raymond, I thought was also a great track. I really like the guitar licks on this, definitely some of the most catchiest guitars used in the album. The track kind of has a early Modest Mouse feel, and I really like the lyrics to this song as well, because I think these guys have always had a good sharp sense of humour and wit, and in the songwriting that they've developed, it's a really good combination in this track. I specifically like the line which is saying that someone's just a footnote to their book. Pretty good put down. And I also like how the protagonist is singing about how his band hates him because he's writing all these sappy love songs. It's good self-referential humour, but I hope it's not based on fact, because I don't want Spooky Nut to break up, guys. Please get along. Moving on to the fourth track, On a Warmer Day, sort of ventures into psychedelic folk music for me because of the filters used on the acoustic guitars, and it's got this sort of whooshing and serene sound to it. There's also sounds of water being poured into a glass, or a glass of water being poured out, and maybe a hint to Future Days, possibly. But even though it is one of the more interesting sounds on the album, don't listen to this track if you kind of busting to go, if you know what I mean. The next track, Darling, I think is also a really good ode to Green Day. I've always thought Billy Joel Armstrong, especially with his vocal range, has been very inspired to this group. I think this is really good. It kind of sounds like a long-lost demo Green Day might have written back in the day in the 90s, but a really good one. Not only is it similar with the vocals, but also I think it's got this youthful vibrancy and energy through the acoustic and electric guitars. There's an acoustic guitar which sounds like it was added later on, which is kind of the only issue that I've got with this song, specifically with the whole project in terms of mixing issues, because it's very highly tuned, this guitar, and it's a bit loud in the mix. It kind of drowns out the vocals, but otherwise to that, I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this track, especially if you're a Green Day fan. I also really like the phone call conversation at the end, which I don't know where the source is on that, but I hope it's not directed to one of the band members, because I care for you lads, you know. In my opinion, With You is one of the weaker cuts on the project, the following track. I think it's a bit too skeletal, and it's also a bit disappointing that in the last few seconds there's this really good vocal harmonising, something that you could have heard on a Beach Boys record, and I think that should have been used throughout the whole track. It would have gave it a bit more diversity. It's a shame, but the Bovine or Bovine Chronicles, which is the track after, is my favourite on the album. This track just has a real big emotional heaviness which really impacts me every time I hear it, and I think in terms of vocals this is the real standout, because it has a lot of diversity as well, specifically how actually there's different vocalists doing different singing parts of the song, and that actually flow from main vocals to backing vocals and end up doing harmonies while someone else sings. I think it's really, really effective and really well done. The solemn and bittersweet lyrics as well as the guitars in this, I think this is definitely for now the best song Spooky Nut has written so far, in my opinion. Unfortunately, Psoriasis, which is the next track, is actually my least favourite on the album. Again, I would describe it as a bit too skeletal, and the main refrain, "You're so caught out in the open," I think just the vocal delivery is really great, and the worst vocals on the record too. I understand that the delivery might be expressive and maybe done purposely pained, but for me it just doesn't work. It's the only real done on the album, I'd say, overall, but anyways, it does pick up a bit with the next track. The track after that is called Disastrous, and I think it's a pretty decent tune, still better than Psoriasis in my opinion. It's again maybe a bit forgettable, but I'd describe it as quite serenading, a nice sort of breezy tune. But then we've got Ghost Stories after that, which again I think is a bit of a highlight. Here we've got a noisy indie rock tune, and I think that this is not only sort of a callback to the start of the record, but it's a great way to also sort of bring the album to a close too. For me, this song is like Mediocrity 2.0, because not only does it sound like it could have been written around the times that these guys were making this sort of compilation, but I think it's far more well constructed and fine-tuned to anything that's off that compilation. The song actually features these heavy uses of feedback on not only the guitars but the vocals as well, and the way that it's used not only with acoustic guitars and electric guitars, but the overall song kind of reminds me of early Beck, kind of mellow gold and Odelay sort of era. And so finally we'll kind of wrap up with the song The Shooter, a nice little ditty, and I think the song just speaks for itself, to be honest. I think you guys should just listen to the lyrics without me talking about them. And I'll just say that it really hit close to home. It made me shed many tears when I've been listening to it. Made me reflect on my life and how much I miss my aquatic pets. Yes, rest in peace, little Eddie. Little fishy, scaly McEddie. Little old swimster. Little old. And so that's my thoughts on this album. Hey guys, I think that this record is well worth listening to, especially if you like your 90s sounding indie rock and lo-fi indie. I think these guys have really developed since I last heard them on the compilation and the singles that they've dropped in the past. And I think this is overall a really good, solid release. If you guys want to support Spooky Nut, then check their Bandcamp page out. And just, yeah, give them a stream or purchase it if you enjoy the music. I certainly have. I'm going to give these guys an 8 out of 10 overall. I was really, really just, I wouldn't say surprised, but proud of these guys. I knew they had it in them from when I first heard them, and I'm glad to hear that they really are coming into their own, and I really look forward to whatever projects they're going to be dropping in the future. So once again, thanks very much for watching, everybody. I hope you're taking care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening.